Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we're talking about retirement. This is a viewer question that we're going to be talking about today. It comes from Ruth. Ruth would like to know how to maximise her superannuation, what she should be asking from her super fund, and how to get bigger profits from her retirement savings. Okay, Ruth, great question. Thanks for asking that. There's three main ways to get the most out of your superannuation. Now, when I say superannuation, for those of you that are overseas and out of Australia, that's our version of retirement savings. In the US, it might be 401k, for example. In the UK, there might be pensions. In Australia, we call it retirement savings. So the information I'm going to give today is Australian specific, but you can usually cross it over to your own version of retirement savings in whatever country you're in, because there's some fundamentals when it comes to retirement savings. Three things to watch out for are: reduce your fees, invest right, in other words, leave it alone, and add to it regularly. So let's talk about those more, because they're the three main fundamental ways to get more out of your retirement savings. And funnily enough, they actually cross over to normal retirement, normal investing as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be retirement savings, but today we're focusing on retirement savings, superannuation. So number one, reduce your fees. With anything in life, the less you pay, the more you make. As in, every dollar you save is another dollar in your pocket. It's no different for superannuation funds. You need to check the fees of your fund, because every reduction in fee, for example, means more money left in your super fund. Now, those fees could be from a number of things. They could be from your actual super fund, your product provider. They could be from insurance premiums that have been paid from the fund, or they could be also from financial advisor fees. When you go and see a financial advisor, you can usually opt in to have some of those fees paid from your fund. So by reducing your fees, that's an automatic increase to your retirement savings. There's a big focus at the moment on superannuation funds, pushing the cheaper funds out there are pushing to, change funds, reduce your fees, fees are everything. And they're right in essence, but there's a lot of different superannuation funds available in Australia and the world. Fees are important, but they're not the be all and end all when it comes to fund quality. So there are some caveats to what I'm talking about today, and I'll tell you how to get around them. But number one you want to do is look for any lost superannuation that you have. Contact old employers, go onto the ATO website, find any of these multiple funds that you've got laying around and aim to put them together, because when it comes to fees, most super funds will charge a member fee, which is a flat dollar fee, usually $50, $70, $100. So if you have multiple funds laying all around, already you're getting charged a few extra $100 more than someone who perhaps has consolidated their super. Fees also are in terms of the investment management fees. So the way your super fund is invested, usually it's in a mix, like a managed fund type of investment. It's pulled into different shares and property, fixed interest and cash. The fund manager that looks after your money, whether it be through CBUS, Australian Super, Colonial First State, AMP, they're all fund managers in essence. They run their own super funds. The way that they invest their money is very different as well, depending what investment option you're in, and for that they charge a fee. There's no super fund that doesn't charge a fee. They all charge a fee. But you want to aim to have one that's charging you no more than somewhere between 0.5 and 1% per annum to manage your money. Anything above that, you're starting to get a little bit higher in fees then. So you want to have a damn good reason for why you're paying higher investment management fees. There are good reasons to pay higher investment management fees, but for most people, they're looking for a simplified portfolio for their superannuation, which is low cost and easy to understand. So if you're in any of the big name super funds in Australia, whether they be an industry fund, like I mentioned, CBUS, Australian Super, that type of thing, they should have relatively low fees. That's one of the selling points of industry funds. Likewise, if you're in a retail fund, which might be managed by some of the big names out there, BT, Colonial First State, AMP, Macquarie, MLC, that type of thing, they also have options in them that are low cost. So it doesn't really matter which platform you're in as such, it's the investment option that you've picked in that fund that you can play around with to get a lower fee. When I talk about consolidating your funds, don't just go out there and find all your super funds and put them all together. It's a great strategy, but it comes with a caveat, because some super funds have insurances attached to them, exit fees attached to them, and other information that's good to know before you go and close them. For example, if you close a fund and it's got insurance attached to it, you may not be able to get that insurance back, for example, if something in your health has changed or whatnot. So you could end up shooting yourself in the foot just by automatically closing things. How do you know which fund is best? That is how long is a piece of string? When you go and see a financial planner, they will review whatever super funds you have. They'll help you find old ones as well. They will go through and look at the investment option you're in, the fees that you're paying, the insurances that attach, what those insurances pay out for and what they don't. What else? The type of investments that you're in, if you've got a beneficiary nominee. So there's a lot of areas, I'm saying, when it comes to superannuation. It's not a very black and white area. There's a lot to consider. That's why financial planners are around. If you're doing it yourself though, and you've got your super fund and you want to reduce your fees, simplify your portfolio, as in find out first of all what you're invested in. Simplify your portfolio using like an index managed fund, for example. They have a lot lower fees than active funds. That's because their investment styles are different. But some funds don't offer index funds, but they should have low funds attached anyway, particularly like the industry funds. So if you've got a while to go before retirement, generally your risk tolerance is better. So you can invest your money for longer and not really worry about the ebbs and flows in the investment performance. So you want to try and pick a growth or a high growth investment portfolio. If you're coming up to retirement, as in maybe 5 years to go or so, you might want to back off a bit from having so much shares and property in your investment portfolio. So you might want to go for something more, they call it like moderately defensive or even balanced sometimes. That would dictate what your returns are over the long term that you're invested in, but also dictates the type of fee that you're paying. Higher growth funds usually have a higher fee attached because they have more shares involved and more property involved. So again, whilst reducing fees is great, you also don't want to shoot yourself in the foot by picking, for example, a really low cost, cheap investment option, which is not suitable for your time frame. So there is a lot to think about with super, but something you can do yourself is to contact each of your super funds, get a statement, number one, have them send you out a statement, see what you're invested in, see what insurance is attached, see if each of the funds have all different insurances attached, and then you can make some changes. The aim is to seek some financial advice first, but consolidate your funds, make sure you're invested in a low cost index fund preferably, or a low cost fund, even if it's an active fund. Check what insurances you have there so that you're not doubling up and you've got life insurance in all of your funds, for example, paying premiums left, right and center. Then what you want to think about is leaving your super fund alone. The worst thing I see in financial planning is that people chop and change which fund they're in every few years, whether it's because they happen to have a new super fund open every time they start with a new employer instead of getting their contributions put into their existing fund, or perhaps they go and see a new financial planner, and the financial planner has particular funds that they love and recommend and know like the back of their hand, and they recommend you to go into a new fund, which may not be anything wrong with that advice. But if you go and see a new financial planner every year or so for some reason, then you might find you chopping and changing super funds all the time. With investing, it's about leaving it alone. Time in the market, not necessarily timing the market. When you're investing and you'll see an investment chart online, you would have seen these sort of pictures, and the share market is going up and down like this, up and down like that. It generally goes up over a long period of time. The problem is if you chop and change an investment, you're missing out on returns. If you chop and change your super fund and flick through different investment options and make all sorts of changes trying to chase returns, you're missing out on returns because you haven't left the investment to grow and benefit from compound interest over a long period of time. So once you've got your super fund cleaned up, you've got your super funds consolidated, you got the right insurance in there, you got the right investment option, that type of thing, leave it alone. Let the super fund do its thing. Let it grow. It's okay to have the same super fund for a number of years, a number of years. You don't need to change all the time, particularly if you've got one that's low cost, has an investment option to suit you. Leave it alone. Don't chop and change. The only thing you should be doing to change your super fund is to tip more money into the super fund. And that's point number 3. Adding a small regular amount to your super can do wonders by the time you get to retirement. Even adding $50 a week, for example, as a 25-year-old starting out your working life, by the time you get to 65, which is the general retirement age in Australia, you can have an extra $90,000 in your account. But if you add that up, you only put in about 44,000 over that 40-year period. So that's because of compound interest and dollar cost averaging. You're adding a little bit more to your super fund every week, for example, every month, whenever your paycheck is. Your employer can usually help you out with that. There's a really tax-effective way of adding to your super fund in Australia called salary sacrifice. So through your employer, you can ask them to salary sacrifice $50 a week, $100 a week, whatever it is you want from your salary, to put that straight into your super fund. The beauty with salary sacrifice is, in return for you boosting your retirement savings, which takes pressure off the government when you retire, the government lets you claim that as a tax deduction. So for every dollar you put in, for example, if you're on the 32.5% tax bracket, which is just an average tax bracket in Australia, essentially means you're getting almost 32% back. Almost. Doesn't quite work exactly like that. But the way it works is, say you add $50 a week to your super fund. That's $1,300 a year. Now with salary sacrifice, you can claim that as tax deduction. So for example, say you're on 60 grand a year or something, you're paying 32.5% tax. You get a tax deduction for that, which is about $400. I've worked it out. Contributions tax is only 15% in a super fund, which is a lot lower than your actual tax rate. So you're going to get a refund of about $195, which means that your net deduction is about $250. So although you're putting in $1,300 a year to your super fund, net, after you get your extra tax back from the government, you're really only salary sacrificing just over $1,000 out of your pocket. Now, this is only using a small amount of $50 a week. Most people should be able to afford that, especially if you start early on in your life. But what if you salary sacrifice $100 a week, for example? Your tax deductions and your rebates would be a lot bigger, so it doesn't cost you as much money to salary sacrifice as the first amount that you're putting in. That $50 a week, as a 25-year-old, for example, 40 years to retirement, would give them about an extra $90,000 a year. $90,000 in their super fund, even though they've only put in about $44,000 over that period of time after all tax deductions. So with superannuation, reduce your fees, clean up your super funds, stick your money into a single index fund, low cost, aim for management fees of between 0.5 and 1%. Add a regular amount to your superannuation. A little over a long time goes a long way, and it won't be as noticeable to your budget, but it will make a hell of a difference to your retirement savings by the end. And number 3, leave your fund to grow. Don't chop and change and keep moving your super funds here, there, and everywhere. Leave it alone. A chart over a 20-year period so that your money is going up like that is over a 20-year period. Most people have a long time before retirement. Leave your money to grow. Don't make too many chops and changes. Now, with all these videos here, if you're unsure, please seek financial advice, particularly with superannuation. It's not an easy area. That's why a lot of financial planners specialize in superannuation. There's a lot of laws to consider in Australia. There's a lot of taxes. There's a lot of things that are important to know: fees, insurances, investment types that you're in. So if you're not sure, or if your super fund can't help you over the phone, because most of them aren't licensed to give financial advice, then you should go and see a financial planner. There will be a fee to go and see a financial planner. You can usually pay that from your superannuation fund. But then once you've got that initial advice and you've set up your super and cleaned it, you can leave it alone. You don't need to keep going to different financial planners all the time. Just leave it. Okay, so I hope that's helped you, Ruth. Thank you for the great question. Like I said, it's a tricky area, superannuation, but they're 3 tips that I hope that you can implement to get more out of your superannuation and get higher returns over the long term for your retirement savings. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.